Hi, Gina.
Hi Ione, hi everyone. I'm Gina, the senior editor of Polyester.
And I'm Ione, the founding editor-in-chief of Polyester, and this is the Polyester Podcast, a feminist pop culture podcast dissecting the discourse on a weekly basis.
Before we start, if you're a fan of this podcast, please make sure to like, subscribe and rate. And if you really love us, you can sign up for a podcast membership where you can join our Discord and get on our Instagram close friends for only £3 a month. Do we have any reviews, Ione?
So we have an unofficial review that I was sent on unofficial means because you can't review podcasts on Spotify, which is annoying. But yeah, this is from our friend Nadine. Hello, shout out Nadine.
Hi Nadine.
Polyester helps me do my homework. Are we 12? Sorry.
Homework.
Polyester helps me do my housework, so thanks, girls. If it wasn't for you both, my house would be minging. Listening to Ione and Gina take the piss and have fun with each other while articulating their thoughts on topics I care too deeply about because I'm chronically online is so nice. I especially like when you both disagree with each other because I'm fed up of hosts wanking each other off and being so agreeable all the time. I get why it's only 30 minutes, but I'd pay to listen to you for longer. Much love, Slagorella from London.
That is so nice. That's the kindest anyone's ever been to me.
I love them.
Right. What are we talking about this week, Ione?
Oh,
right.
What else have I been talking about? Nothing. I've been talking about nothing else for the last 2 weeks. Saltburn, which I okay, let me just tell you this. I never go to cinema anymore. I feel like COVID killed cinema for me. I feel like me and Eden spoke about this on the podcast before. I've literally, since COVID, I've only been to see The Batman, June, which literally gave me sinusitis and scarred me, like I have actual trauma. Don't Worry Darling, Bones and All, and now Saltburn. Oh, and Barbie. So I suppose I've been a bit. That's not like nothing.
5 films in 2 years is not much.
Oh.
Sorry. Okay.
I think it's 6, but okay.
I'm like on a high because I saw 2 films in one day the other day, so I'm like, I own Letterboxd now.
So we're talking about Saltburn, which I saw 2 weeks ago, and I fucking hated.
Yeah, I'd like you to paint a picture of your trip to the cinema and the hour that happened after you left the cinema.
I can't remember that long. Okay, so I went to cinema.
Yeah, you can. It was so fucking funny. I can pretend to be you and tell you exactly what happened.
So I went to cinema, and also, like, I have this thing. I don't know if it's because I'm nearly 30 now, but I always need to wee in films now. That's just probably another COVID thing as well. So halfway through, I went to the toilet, and like the toilet was really dirty, which, you know, whatever. But it was like really period-y. And then so I went back into the cinema screen, and it was the period scene in Saltburn. I was just like,
oh, also like. Spoiler warning, we're going to talk about this entire film.
Yeah. Also, I'm not anti-periods, you know, but like I don't want to have to clean up someone else's period in the toilet. I think that's just like a normalcy of life. I'm not like anti-period sex either, so no one say I'm not a bad feminist for that. What?
You just go, and I also love period sex.
No, I'm not anti it, is what I said. It's because there's period sex in Saltburn.
All right, okay, fine.
Anyway,
then I forgot that it was period sex.
Yeah, period sex in Saltburn. I wasn't just like dropping it. Fuck off. So then I was already a bit annoyed because I was literally like watching fucking Barry. How do you say his last name? Keoghan,
yeah, I think.
Like go, I'm a vampire while he's fucking licking out someone's period. But I was already like, oh. Anyway, and then the film just got worse and worse and worse for me. I completely was like, this is probably the worst thing I've ever seen in my life, and I could have walked out of the film and been 100% fine with my decisions. I texted Gina saying I never wanted to watch another film again in my life because Saltburn pissed me off that much. Have I missed anything?
That was not the only thing you text me.
What else did I text you?
I got about 20 different texts of you going, I hated it. It was the worst film I've ever seen. She's ruined cinema. I can't believe this has been put out. I am having conniptions as a working class woman.
How is a conniption?
Like a fit.
Okay, I didn't say the conniptions because I don't know what that word is, but yeah.
That's a word that I would use to describe what was happening to you in the straight away after and the following 2 weeks since you've seen the film.
I was like physically annoyed, like it spiked my nervous system to a point where I could not relax for like 4 days. That's how much I hated this film.
Yeah,
I've been this passionate about hating the film so much. Oh, and I also saw Bo is Afraid in the cinema, and I was as viscerally angry at Beau's Afraid. Yes. Again, I could have walked out of Beau's Afraid and been fine, comfortable in my decision.
I think
For a very
Beau's
different
Afraid
reason.
is better than this.
You know what? I would say, yeah. I would agree with you there. I enjoyed Beau's Afraid more than I enjoyed Saltburn.
Yeah, and that's the biggest insult I think I could give a film. No, I enjoyed Beau's Afraid more.
Okay, so right, let's get into it. For anyone that hasn't seen Saltburn,
What about me?
okay, go. You can tell us your reaction. You liked it. You're fronting right now.
No, I know. I'm gonna say.
Go on.
So when he instilled the fear of God into me about this film, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna hate. I've wasted my money now because I'd already pre-booked with Imogen to go. So I've wasted my money. I'm just gonna have to go anyway." Told Mav not to bother. I was like, "It's gonna be awful. I'm gonna leave here enraged. It's gonna be the opposite of a Ken Loach film. Like I'm gonna be so angry.
Yeah.
Not that they don't make me angry, but very different." And then what was I gonna say? Right, okay, so I went in,
Yeah.
watched it, had some laughs, a few giggles left my mouth, some gasps were gasped. The film ended.
Which I actually have a really good piece of research about. I don't know where I can't find it in my research, but it was basically a review that was saying this film is like made for British people to go, oh my goodness.
Oh yeah, no, you sent me that. Oh, I'm beside myself. I can't believe what I've just seen.
Yeah.
God, it's like fucking. Anyway, it's like Downton Abbey met Lars von Trier.
Yeah.
Watch one Lars von Trier film.
I think that is more
without the joy.
complimentary than she deserves. Okay, Saltburn is a movie destined to be spoken about with uniquely British outrage. It's devilishly dark, fiendishly clever, gleefully twisted, says Patrick Sproul for Dazed. Saltburn can push people write good class satire. Short answer of that is no. All it needed was a one-word article. They can't. But here we are. We're doing the podcast.
And then it was kind of like one of those films where I have to say I enjoyed watching it while I was watching it, but I was also going, what's the point the whole time? And then I also was just kind of nostalgically hooked in by being like, I miss going to clubs and drinking WKDs. And then also...
No one in Saltburn would drink a WKD, but yes.
He's drinking a Smirnoff Ice in a scene. I remember specific Imogen going, he's got a Smirnoff Ice.
Smirnoff Ice is rich person WKD.
No, it's not. Anyway, same price in the supermarket.
Yeah, but it's about, branding.
Okay. I think Big Smirnoff Ice would be really happy with that.
Anyway, we actually need to say what the film is, because if anyone has no fucking clue what Saltburn is, they're going to be like, what? It's been 10 minutes and they haven't said anything. So Saltburn is Emerald Fennell's second sophomore feature. Emerald Fennell is, important context, essentially a very rich person herself. Her dad is a celebrity jeweler who has the nickname the King of Bling. She grew up extremely rich. She has a very rich voice. A TikTok came up that was like, when Letterboxd put their mics in people's faces at film premieres, and it was like, what are your top 4 films? She was like, I love Letterboxd. Oh, I adore it. And it's like, fuck off. Literally.
Yeah, I remember like when Promising Young Woman came out.
I've got to get to the synopsis. I'm sorry. So, Saltburn, it's got Jacob Elordi in it. It's got Barry Keoghan in it. It's got Rosamund Pike in it. It's got Rich D. Grant in it, who Emerald Fennell has known since she was 2 years old. She grew up with Rich D. Grant, another important piece of context. It also has Carey Mulligan in it, and it has the girl that was in Conversations with Friends, which I'm really sorry I don't know her name. It also has Archie, I don't know how to say his last name, Archie Magquay, something like that, who is quite good in it. But it's about Oxford in 2006. Barry Keoghan goes, he's like a poor little poor boy. Jacob Elordi is a poor little rich boy. And Barry Keoghan wants to be in with the it crowd, which is Jacob Elordi's friends. He then helps Jacob Elordi with a task. I don't know why I'm saying this unspoilery.
A task?
He helps Jacob Elordi with a task and gets invited to Saltburn, which is Jacob Elordi's country manor. It's a castle, it's a manor house, it's a National Trust home, it's huge. Rosamund Pike plays the mum, Richard D. Grant plays the dad, and things unfold, and it turns out that Barry is just trying to get all their riches.
Oh, and there's like a really weird scene where like they've set up that Barry's from like a proper rough background. Like his parents are like drug addicts, drug dealers,
Yeah,
alcoholics.
so Barry lies about his family being addicts and dealers and like living on a council estate and stuff, and then he's actually like middle class, and that's meant to be like a big gotcha moment.
Yeah, it's that thing of, again, just pitting the working classes against each other, isn't it?
Well, I think it shows where Emerald Fennell's disdain really lies, because up until that point, there's like a lot of jokes about rich people. Like Rosamund Pike is really good in it at like portraying a rich woman, like an older rich woman, not like a middle-aged rich woman. Like she has like a lot of like bites to her jokes, and she is funny, and she's like pitch perfect with it, but also she is that woman, like she is a posh British woman, so it's like how far from the truth is it? And Carrie Mulligan plays like a wistful rich person that, you know, life has gone off the rails for her. And up until that point you're like, oh, this is a satire of rich people. And then I feel like when Emerald Fennell lands the scene that Barry is actually lying about his class background and like kind of establishes him as the villain of it, that's when it lost any humor for me, because it becomes less of like a satire or less of punching up, like, and it just becomes rich people making jokes about how funny they are, like how quirky their lifestyle is. And I don't think rich people jokes are funny when it's just them laughing at like each
Yeah,
other.
and I thought this is the first bit of research you put in our research document, saying like, are we being sold this fantasy that rich people are like stupid, like, and rich people are like silly, and like, why are we being told that? Like, what's the actual root of that being come across as a message? And it kind of reminded me of the whole like Boris thing, like.
Yeah, Richard E. Grant basically plays like a Boris cosplay where he's like got bad hair and he's always going, oh gosh, and like never really knows what's going on. So the first line of this article, the article is Saltburn is a brideshead for the incel age, Richard Brody for the New Yorker. And the opening is, if the rich blithered as much in real life as they do in the movies, they'd have been eaten long ago. The fantasy that the privileged are easily gulled has a powerful law. By placing riches in opposition to acumen, it reassures us that luxury and status are probably unearned, that just as youth is said to be wasted on the young, wealth is wasted on the wealthy, and that it wouldn't take much to get it into the right hands.
True. Facts are facts, America. And I think when you contextualize it through Emerald Fennell, then you're like, well, she's purposefully doing that to protect her class and her class status.
Yes, 100%. That's the thing. It's like she's tried to paint this film in many ways. Like in some interviews, she said it's like a tale of obsession. In others, she said it's like a traditional Gothic masterpiece vibe, like compared it to like Wuthering Heights and stuff like that. And in others, so I said in my notes that she basically thinks that she's a British John Waters. So there's like a lot of gross out things in the film as well. Like I'm sure most people have seen the memes about Barry guzzling Jacob Elordi's cummy bathwater, and then there's like many other kind of like of that level in inverted commas gross out moments. And in some interviews, she's made the point, which, like John Waters often says when he does interviews as well, and it's like, oh, I'm a equal opportunity satirist. Like I satirize everyone, like whether you're rich, poor, fat, skinny, black, white, like disabled, not non-binary or cis. Like everyone's kind of up for it, up for, you know, the joke, up for debate. And I feel like that's what Emerald Fennell's trying to do here. It's like, well, I'm satirizing rich people as much as I'm satirizing the poor people that want to be them. And it's like, you're not though, because you're literally painting these aristocrats as like the victims of like a middle class boy, which is just a weird thing to do, and B, like I feel like there's a very notable distinction in the film where her rich characters are treated like with a lot of love, whereas her poor ones are treated with a lot of
Yeah,
contempt.
literally, like everyone's so shallow to begin with. Like there's the only redeeming one in the end kind of becomes Jacob Elordi's character, because you're like, he's just been born into it, and he can't help it, which is what the message she wants to send out to the world, isn't it? And like how she can get around.
As someone who was
Yeah,
born
just like you
into it.
can't help what you're born into, but that doesn't count if you're fucking rich, mate.
So another really good opening line is the New York Times review. A promising young man takes a seedy turn by Wesley Morris. Saltburn is the sort of embarrassment you'll put up with for 75 minutes, but not for 127. It's too desperate, too confused, too pleased with its petty shocks to rile anything you'd recognise as genuine excitement. And this is what made me like click this is what kind of confirmed the John Waters thing for me. There's like a really good line, and it's like, when the time comes for the movie to make it switch to gothic mischief, it's like watching the first half of Psycho turn into a video for George Michael's Freedom 90. What does that look like? Oliver sneaks a peek as Felix masturbates in the tub, and once the coast is clear, he bends over and sips the draining bath water. It's a fine shot that's also an absurd thing to have this guy do, which is how you know the movie is failing as a good work of trash. I didn't laugh or gape. I just sat there watching an actor do his damnedest to save the rest of the movie before it heads down the drain.
The
It's like,
literal
I think she
drain.
thinks she's really funny, and like that's really
The literal
unappealing.
drain.
The literal, yeah. It's a clever bit of wordplay there. And I think another thing about this film is that Miss Fennel really thinks her audience is stupid. So when the big twist comes at the end, which is that Barry was killing them all and like wanted to take over Saltburn and have the
Planned it
riches,
from the beginning, which I don't believe.
she does it like a fucking like, I don't believe either, it makes no sense. She does it, this sort of like Miss Marple reveal where it's like, and this is how I did this bit, and this is how I did this bit. And that just makes me think that she genuinely thinks the average cinema goer is thick, because like anyone who watched that film could see that he was doing it the whole time. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I don't know, because we had
Not the whole time, but as soon as the first person died, you're like, all right, he's killed Jacob Elordi. All right.
That's why it doesn't make any sense, though, because she's painted it as this tale of obsession of him with this guy. And then
if you're obsessed with someone, you want to kill them.
20 minutes, it tries to be like, no, he wasn't obsessed with him. He was just really smartly using him to get access to his wealth and like corrupt his family.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't guzzle the cummy bath water of someone who you were planning on murdering for their money.
You're right. And I also think there's like so much of the film that is like when he first gets to Saltburn, etc., it kind of feels like he's learning the codes, like he's learning how to assimilate into the world, and that's how he becomes like more cunning or more charismatic or more smart. So then it kind of makes sense, like, oh, he's learning how to like, you know, charm the mother, he's learning how to like seduce the sister, all of these types of things. But then it's like, no, he was that smart all along. And it's like, no, he fucking wasn't. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been like so sheepish when he first arrived there. And like,
yeah, there's
do you know what I mean?
scene as well. They're trying to act like he saw it from like looking out his window and catching fucking Jacob's Rowley reflection. Like he saw that and went, I'm going to go corrupt their whole family. Did he fuck? Like, and it would have just been better if he'd like, if they'd showed more of like him coming up with his plan and executing it, and B, if she'd managed to show him like slowly turning evil while within Saltburn, like it corrupted him. And I feel like it all just comes down to that she can't write a fucking film, save a life.
She can't. Like, something that I saw researching this today is that like every single review mentions the vibes. It's like, this is a film of vibes. This is vibes. Like the vibes do this, the vibes do that. Vibes died at the beginning of this year. Vibe is out. Vibes, no.
I'm sick of
vibes.
vibes.
Are bad.
I can't be arsed with vibes.
Terrible all
vibes
year.
isn't a word I want to use anymore. And the only people I think still using the word vibes is rich idiots who want to go to Boomtown but also want to have a yurt while they're there.
Well, that's what this film is. It's those people. Like, I don't know. I think the way that it just like clearly resents A, its audience, and B, anyone that is not super rich is hell, and she's like very confused. I also think the comparison calling it incel cinema is bad because like Barry gets a lot of skirt. Gets a lot of skirt.
Are you in the in-betweeners?
We shags all the time. That's the whole point. He's shagging. He's been shagging. And like, what? So an incel is now just someone who's like weird. I don't get it. Anyway, it feels like this film has confused critics in trying to use like as many buzzwords as possible to describe it. And nothing really gets to the bottom of it because it's an absolute like classist piece of absolute shit. No, I was going to say the other thing that's really annoyed me is that she can't decide what the film is. So then in an interview for Letterboxd, she said, this is one thing that just like made my absolute skin crawl. Maybe I'm being facetious, but I don't think there's anything in this film that's that sick, especially when I've been used to seeing women's bodies treated abominably in film and television.
I hate it. She uses feminism in like such the weirdest
It's like
way. You've made a film about two boys. What the fuck you on about?
Yeah, like what do women have to do
Stop
with it? There's literally nothing about women. There's like a couple of eating disorder jokes.
Yeah, and Rosamund Pike is fit.
Like that's
Like, great.
literally, yeah, that's like the most it has in terms of interest towards
And
women.
also, it has a
all.
very graphic, horrible scene of two women dying. Two very horrible graphic scenes of two women dying in probably like the most, I don't know, like misogynistic ways.
The way that strips them of agency. Yeah, they have no agency
Exactly,
in their
like
deaths.
it's really like you can't bring feminism into it at all. And then her trying to cash in on her promising young woman points, which also was arguably not a feminist film.
Yeah. Also, something that really annoyed me about like the writing around Saltburn, and people keep mentioning, there's like a scene where Barry is hungover and he pukes in his like little sink that's in his uni room, and everyone's like, "Wow, sick at Oxford." It's like, A, Emil Fennel just learnt what objection was last year and has decided to use it in every possible way imaginable. B, rich people throw up as well. Like, what the fuck are you on about? Why is it shocking to see
Rich
some
people
sick
famously throw
on a
up. Have you not
sink?
heard of the Roman Empire? Jesus Christ. One of our friends said, well, Megan, who listens to this, Meg Winston, was like, it just felt like a long Skins episode. And I was like, exactly. And Skins was never known for its fucking cultural critique. I don't know why we're all like holding it as this bastion of that.
A lot has been said about the fact that it's set in 2006. Like Emerald Fennell has said herself, like, "Oh, I wanted it to be cringy. Like now you can't base something in the early noughties because we have nostalgia for it, whereas we don't have nostalgia for 2006, 2007 because it's too recent." Which A, shows she's never fucking studied like how trend cycle works in her life, because we literally are operating on a 15 to 20 year trend cycle. So 2007 is
Did
like
she
bang
tell
on
that
the
to
money.
Depop?
B, literally, yeah. B, this whole film feels like a vehicle for her nostalgia of growing up rich and going to Oxford and like hanging around these types of people. So in a Guardian op-ed, "Is Saltburn the most divisive film of the year?" by Adrian Horton, it says, "Here's a botched nostalgia for one. The film starts with a full-throated announcement that this is the class of 2006 at Oxford, ripe then for the ascendant mid-aughts nostalgia for millennials, and then plays fast and loose with the time period. There are no smartphones, sure, but there's no specificity either. The characters watch a film released in 2007, Superbad, do karaoke songs popular in 2008, Flow Riders Low. Many have written elsewhere about how the film has nothing to say about class or the perversion of wealth, but it also has little that feels 2006 about either. It's just around the time when Fennel herself was at Oxford." Yeah, like she made a massive thing about how Jacob's wearing a Live Strong band, like a Live Strong yellow band around his wrist, and it's like, who
Yeah, when they're all reading the
cares?
fucking new Harry Potter book.
Yeah, like there's Harry Potter in like 30 shots. I also found it funny in the Dazed article they like starred out Harry Potter as if it was a slur.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
I think it all comes back to, and I was finding while I was reading the research, I was like, there's no way to take in this film without thinking about the director. And at first I was like, that's a bit harsh. Like, how many films do ultimately come down to the director? Like, there's that whole death of the author, Roland Barthes thing being like, you should always like view a piece of media as like separate from the person who created it and like not use that context and like see if it stands up on its own. But A, it doesn't. And then B, it's so fucking autobiographical that it's impossible. And then
Yeah, she said herself, like, you can never separate yourself from your work. Like, whatever you do, it's always going to be about you. Plus, I feel like in the age we're in of like influencers and like individualist society, being a director, like an auteur exists more now than it did when we were teenagers, I'd say. Like, growing up, I probably learned about like Martin Scorsese when I was like 18. Like, before that, I didn't give a fuck who was directing my films.
the media,
do you know what I mean? Like, whereas now, you know, and you're into it.
I think the media cycle, because it's had to include so much social media element to it, has made us more aware of those people, like as people of themselves. So like the whole Ridley Scott like press run is making everyone like adore him because he's just been a freak.
Also the strike, because so this film came out like the week after or the days following, like something very close to the strike ending. So obviously we've had like a whole summer of only directors being able to do press for their films. And because of that, Emerald Fennell's probably done way more press, even though the strike was technically over, than she thought she would. No, not even that she thought she would. I'm sure she loves it. But like then usually we'd see of directors. So obviously we're gonna see them and have opinions on them. And plus I want to know who makes my art. Like it's like a glaring indictment of like who gets to make art and especially what women get to make art. And I've seen a lot of tweets being like, yeah, it's sexist, like no one would say this shit about like a rich male director. And it's like, well, cool, but do we not, that doesn't mean they're beyond
Also, I expect
criticism.
more from someone who's in some kind of marginalised identity to have a bit of fucking credibility towards the messages they're trying to portray.
Yeah, but I think it's just so, I think her limited range is just so glaringly obvious throughout, even the way the women talk to each other in the film. It's like one of these other reviews says something to the effect of like, oh, it might actually have been more funny if like Rosamund Pike and Carey Mulligan went to Ab Fab. But Emerald Fennell's aim wasn't actually comedy, it's opulence. Like she wanted to show how like fabulous these women are, that they just talk around making ill-informed jokes about the poor, but they're like the winners eventually because they're the ones sitting there in the
Yeah,
manor
no,
house.
she's not making any hard punches towards anyone apart from Barry's character, which pissed me off, especially the more I thought about it, because I'm like, Barry as an actor is from such a working class background. Like, he's got like such a fucking incredible life story to him, getting to where he is. And then this rich girl's got to make a rich film about being rich, got the working class boy in it, and got him to do all these depraved things on screen. And they're not depraved things on screen, which is just like generally how she would put it. And then just to make the punchline be, rich people aren't that bad. If poor people had the opportunity, they would.
Yeah. Yeah, it shows how like little she knows about like communities, as like community building as well, and like working class solidarity and like all of this stuff. Like it's just
I kind of left the film being like, good for him. I wasn't asked.
well, I feel like that was another thing she was trying to get across was like, yeah, like, you know, all those memes about like Gone Girl being the good for you, good for her genre. But I feel like she was trying to do that, but with Saltburn. But I feel like
I don't know, I think that's giving her too much
ultimately
credit.
I was left cold because his motivations are not
I think
clear.
I think it's A, that's giving her too much credit. And I think B, it's just really sloppy narrative writing and like world building. Like, you don't know anyone's motivations for fucking anything. Like, why does that guy just randomly hate him?
No.
Like the cousin? Like, why does he hate him so
Yeah,
much?
well, yeah, the two characters she pits against each other are the one that's playing poor, but you think he's poor at the time, and the black guy.
And the black guy
like, that's not
he's
a
also
very
apparently
good,
like rich and is like money grubbing off the family. And like these two money grubbers are the ones that are like, I'm gonna have like all these deep chats about like hating each other. Like, that's not how that would work.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like basically saying like, oh, people that aren't us want to be us so badly that they'll like act against people that maybe share commonalities
Yeah, because
with
there's that
them.
bit towards the end of the film where he's like, you will never be a part of this society, but I always will be because I was born into it.
Exactly. How?
I also think that eating the rich is oxymoronic in itself. Someone's just put an essay on
Right.
as a genre, I mean, like someone's just put an essay, not put an essay on, I put the essay on. Someone's written an essay for the Dollhouse where they've written about anti-work fiction. So like there's like this rising genre within fiction of people who is like anti-capitalist, like anti-going to work, so like convenience store women and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then she's like, now that's took off, loads of publishing houses are pushing these kinds of books or like buying them from Japan basically because it's a big like genre already over there. And she posits the point that these companies are then making money off this sentiment, and that's what Emerald Fennell has done then. And that's what all these fucking TV show and film companies are doing, where the streaming bosses are getting a billion quillion quid.
I just don't even think it's an eat the rich. It's not an eat the rich film.
But she thinks
all.
it is.
She probably thinks it is, yeah. I'd love for it to just be erased from my memory.
And the thing is, though, I will therefore watch it again.
No, I will never watch it again.
I'll watch that in like 2 Christmases from now and go, what a load of shite.
Not in my life will I watch that film.
Anyway, The Hunger Games was really good.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. We were going to talk about the Hunger Games, but I haven't been
It's
able to
also like
see
3
it,
hours
so
long.
I wish I watched the Hunger. I literally came out like, I wish I saw the Hunger Games instead of this shit. Like, as soon as I left, I was like, I wish I saw it.
When you do see it, I'd love to know your opinion. We'll put it on our close friends on Instagram so everyone can see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's leave it there.
I think we've said a lot. And I hope if you went into that film and you liked it, we've changed your mind. I'm sorry to rip your joy from it.
Yeah. That's your favourite thing.
That's my favourite thing.
Yeah, like you love your mind being changed by someone telling you something
I
about
do,
a
I
film.
genuinely do. I always love having my mind. I love having my
I
mind
know.
changed. It's one of my favourite things, actually.
Yeah, I know.
Why do I
That's
sound
why
like the
said
substitute
it.
teacher? Like the substitute teacher that would come into school and be like, I love teaching kids because they just change your mind and they ask questions that make you think. That's me.
Okay. Well, thank you for your thoughts.
Thank you for your tirades. Thank you, Olivia.
Thank you, Olivia, for editing. We'll see you
Bye.
next week.